And welcome back. One thing I noticed from the previous video is in my constants file, I should make sure that my variable and my strings are the same. So just adding an underscore over here. All right. So let's talk about the next part, which is using the other method that comes with React Redux, which is connect. Now, this connect function is optimized in order for us to avoid using something called store.subscribe. So if you remember when we console.logged the store in our app.js, we had a few functions, including the getState function that we logged. Now, there's also a .subscribe function, which subscribes any component that is interested to be aware of Redux and listen to any changes. But that's a little tedious, and connect simplifies the process by simply saying, use the connect function, and with that, we're going to make the component Redux aware. If you remember, the connect components would be these yellow little components that know about Redux. So we've created the provider component that essentially passes down the store to the components, but now we have to say which one of these React components we want to be smart or be aware that the Redux library exists and they can subscribe to changes. So I'm going to show you how to do that in this video. And by the way, the standard in the industry is that we call these smart components containers, kind of like app.js. So we're most likely going to connect the app.js file because it is a container. So the very first thing we're going to do is go to app.js file. And within here, we want to import a few things. Let's start off with importing the actions. So I'm going to import the actions that we have. Let's go over here. We have the set search field action. So we're going to do the set search field action, and we're going to import that from the actions.js file. And because actions.js file is folder level up, since the app.js is in the containers, I'm going to do the double periods. Let's save that, and we get a nice little warning saying that set search field is defined but never used. Let's also save our index file. Perfect. Let's now use this connect method that I've been talking about. So at the top over here, I'm going to say import the connect method from React Redux. And this connect method, the way it works, and again, you just have to get used to it, is at the very bottom where we do export default, we're going to say connect is going to be a function, and then another brackets around app. Now, this syntax might look a little bit confusing. And connect is something we call higher order function. Now, higher order function is a function that returns another function. So connect is going to run, and whatever connect does inside of this function is going to return another function. And because it returns another function, it's going to run this part with the app. So that's how higher order components work, and you'll learn more about these later on in your career. But for now, just know that this is the syntax. You just have to get used to it. And let's just add a new line so we can see it better here. Now, within here, connect accepts two parameters, which again are standard. I can name them whatever I want, but we're just following the Redux standards, which the first one is map state to props, and the second one is map dispatch to props. All right, so right now we've just connected this component, this app component, and said, hey, subscribe to any state changes in the Redux store. And now app knows that there's a Redux store somewhere, and anytime that there's changes to it, it might be interested in it. But now we need to tell it what to be interested in. That is, what state should I listen to? What dispatch or what action should I listen to? So let's go back to the top. And at the very top here, we want to define these functions or these parameters. So all we're going to do is say const map state to props. And this is going to receive a state. And it's going to return an object. And like I said before, you can name these whatever you want, but this is the standard, and any Redux app, you'll just see this. So just get used to the syntax. Once you do it a couple of times, it becomes second nature. All right, and in here, we want to say that the search field state, which again, if we go to our reducers, we have search field over here. This search field state is going to equal state, which we receive, dot the part of the reducer, which again, if we go to reducers, is search robots. So search robots dot search field. So again, it's saying that the search field that we're going to return, which is going to be used as props by the app component, is going to come from the state, state dot search robots dot search field, which again comes from our reducer. Because remember, in index.js file, we've created the store with the search robots reducer. So if we go back here, let's save that. And we have match dispatch to props is not defined. And again, because we need the second part, which is match dispatch to props. So let's again create that. We'll say that const map dispatch to props is going to receive something called dispatch. And again, something that you'll just have to get used to. Dispatch, if you remember in our discussion about Flux, is what triggers the action. So an action is just an object that we've created, again, if you remember. But in order to send this action, we need something called dispatch, so it gets dispatched into the reducer. So this dispatch can now be used to send actions. And the way we do that, we can say on search change, which is just a name that I can say anything. So remember, this is a prop that it's going to receive, but we're going to keep it the same as the one that we've had in our React app on search change. And so this is what the prop is going to be named. And the on search change is going to receive an event, because remember, it's a input box that users type. And this event, again, because on search change is a function, is going to dispatch the action set search field. Because remember, action is just an object, just a function that returns an object. We want to dispatch that so the reducers are aware of it. And this search field, when it gets dispatched, is going to listen to, if you remember, in our actions, it's going to receive a text. That is whatever the user has inputted. In which case, we can just do event.target.value. Again, just like we have in the on search change here, event.target.value. So if I save this, let me make this a little bit smaller, and save now, I have a few little warnings. One is that, remember, we need to return this as an object. So we want to say return, just like we did above with the state, an object that contains all of our action. again, map state to props is tell me what piece of state I need to listen to and send down as props. And map dispatch to props says, hey, tell me what props I should listen to that are actions that need to get dispatched. All right, everything is working. We're not getting any errors over here. And remember now that down here in the connect, we know what map state to props is, map dispatch to props is, and connect is going to run the first part of the function and say, okay, I'm listening to this part of the state and I'm interested in these actions. And then it's going to give those props to the app. Here's the exciting part. Because remember, I said Redux can replace your state in your app. I can technically now remove the search field from this .state from the app. And I can also remove on search change because, again, that's coming down as props. We don't need to declare it as a method of app. So I can delete that now. And then down here, I'm not interested in this .state search field anymore. I can remove that because now it's coming down as props. So instead, I can say const search field with capital F comes from this .props. And finally, the onSearchChange doesn't come from this .onSearchChange, which was a method of the app. It comes from the props. So again, I can say onSearchChange and remove the .this. Let's save that. And again, I'll get an error saying that search field is not defined because remember, with our Redux state, we changed the search field to have capital F. So if I change that so it understands that that's what we're interested in, everything is working. Now, here's a little gotcha. Right now, because in our index.js file, we only have one reducer, we're creating the store from this. If we go back to app.js, state actually only has one field, and that is search field. So we would have to do something like this in order for it to work. Now, we're going to get back to this point because once we start adding more piece of state and more reducers, we're going to have to get state from each piece that we're interested in. But for now, we're going to get back to that. We're just going to say state.searchField because if you remember in console.log store.getState, we just had the search field. So let's save that and go back. All right, nothing in the console. That's good. The moment of truth. If I type something here, look at that. Everything is working, despite the fact that we no longer have the state for the search field in here or the method. Instead, everything is going through Redux. And just to test that theory, if I go in here into my set search field, and instead of having these automatic return, I'm going to say console.log text, and I'm going to return from here the object. So we're just going to console log to see if the action is coming through. I save and go back. Let's open up the console, and look at that. Everything I type is being sent through the action. And another cool part is if I go to the reducer, and again, I test everything out and I say console.log.action.type. I save this and go back. We see that we have a little funny action that happens, and this is the default when Redux initiates. But now if I click on anything or type something, I get change search field, because the reducer on every action gets run and says, did change search field action happen? If that's the case, I'm going to return a new state. Very cool. We've just connected our React app to Redux, and everything works nicely. There's a bit of boilerplate here, and you have to remember map state to props, map dispatch to props. But once you get used to that syntax, it's really, really nice and beautiful the way Redux works and how we've cleaned up everything, where everything flows nicely. Just like we mentioned, we've created an action that gets dispatched into a reducer, a function that based on that action takes the state and changes it in the store. And because the store got updated, React components that are interested are going to listen to those changes and make a view change. Very cool. All right, some more exciting stuff coming up in the next video. I'll see you in that one. Bye-bye.